Hello, this is Christina Barton. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barnes. Today we're going to be talking about Andrew Cuomo weighing in his 2 cents, and people probably like, bro, you were like kicked out and disgraced, but why wouldn't he come back up and say some things, since Trump is saying some things that kind of make him look good in his pursuit to tear down Ron DeSantis. This is going to be a really ugly primary, and I wish people are fighting it more strategically than what they are, because it doesn't make me extraordinarily optimistic going forward, but is what it is. So it's news, so we'll talk about it. Also, Lululemon. I think I already posted this on both my Facebook and my YouTube, but they fired their employees for stopping a robbery, or for calling the police and getting the license plate and stuff to stop a robbery. Yes, that's the crazy world that we're living in, where you are punished for doing good things. And that's just where we are, unfortunately, right now. And man, so many people around the world can't understand why Americans are so into their guns. And I'm like, why would we give them up when we have no guarantee that anyone will keep us safe? There's already not a constitutional like duty for police officers and stuff to keep you safe anyway. But there's just like, it seems like there's no justice in the world for, you know, people who do right now. Like, it's only for the lawless. It's only for, well, there's no justice. There's just protection for the lawless right now. So, we'll be talking about that. Also, in the geek sphere, people are upset because Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, which even though might not be widely into geek culture, you're probably familiar with the Lord of the Rings, especially with the huge trilogy that they had years back. There were some cards that were released, and Aragorn is black in them, and people had some words. People had some words to say about this. So we'll be talking about all those things today. But before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, videos, articles, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Cost of stream, run my website, all the good stuff. So if you would like to support, you very well can, and it's very much appreciated. If you can't, I understand how things are with buy inflation, but if you can't, I appreciate it. If you can't, I understand. And I thank you guys for commenting, for watching, for liking, for adding people, telling them to watch. All those things really do help. So thank you very much. Check out different merch that we have at our store as well. I'll just show a thing or two today. We still got the goat hoodies and stuff if you're and t-shirts. We have the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For. That a lot of people really like that shirt. So there's that material. I also write books. And so someone left an interesting kind of comment. So I already posted the picture of Aragorn on, my YouTube. And so under that post, but the last post before that I posted was about my book, which is a historical fiction fantasy series. And so, I mentioned in my synopsis explaining it that I got some of an idea from it because in my family history, at least what's told anyway, we had a slave master's daughter who ran away with one of her father's slaves. So I said that, I just kind of, switched the genders a bit and, went from there. And so they said, well, why is it okay for other people to race swap, but you can gender swap? And they're like, I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but why can you do it, nobody else? Or why can other people do it with their characters, but you can't? You can do it with characters, but other people can't. And I'm just like, my ancestor isn't a character. They were real people. And I didn't make a documentary like people are upset about the Cleopatra thing because it's passing itself off as a documentary. Um, I didn't make a biography about my ancestor. It's not her story. That's what it's not about that. It's really only that piece, and it doesn't even play out exactly the same way. It was just like a mere kind of piece of inspiration. So I don't know if that was supposed to be a weird kind of gotcha. I did reply to them. They didn't. I don't think that they replied back after that, but it was so bizarre. I don't know. It's like if you say anything about some of these things that are pretty woke with the race swapping or whatever, people just accuse you of doing anything as being kind of woke yourself. Like Eric July, his main character in his book series, I Saw Him, as a black guy. And so people are like, aha, this is woke because he's black. And I'm like, that's not what woke is. Like, people don't have a problem with diversity, especially if you're making something new that's yourself, that you've come up with. And that's a really big complaint from content creators, including a lot of black content creators who are nerds. They're like, we like diversity. We want to see characters, but we want to see new characters. We don't want to see, black people who have to be installed into traditionally white roles as if you didn't find these characters legitimate on their own and they have to ride the coattails of these defined characters that we love throughout the years. And like, why don't you try something new? Like, there's new people that we can introduce and love. Like, oh my gosh, I love these characters in this book that I wrote. Charlotte's an amazing character. Cooper's not on the front, but he's a black free man, and he is an amazing character. He's a man's man. He's charming. He's very optimistic, even though he's like aware of how the world is, because it takes place during the Civil War era. So of course there's racism and unfairness and people are being treated unfairly, etc. But he's the kind of person who doesn't let bitterness weigh him down because he's trying to build a better tomorrow. And I want the attitude that he has in the book to manifest in this world that we have today. So there's a lot of great stories out there that people would like to be told, but people just want soulless cash grabs while doing their virtue signaling thing. And then they also like to race swap characters in case it fails. So they can come back and say, oh, well, it didn't work out because people are racist or people are sexist or whatever. That's actually like worked into the corporate sort of strategy now. And it's really unfortunate. But anyway, if you're interested, my stuff is also, if you go to blackteennews.com, go to the merchandise page, you can see my stuff on, there's a link that'll take you to my book website. So go ahead and check out that stuff as well. Also, theme that I have today, let me share my screen really quick. Woke companies at 11:59 p.m. on May 31st. So it is the dreaded day before the floodgates open and the wokeness like totally overwhelms us with whatever companies are trying to do. And of course, we've already seen content pour out with the Pride Month stuff, and because we talked about Target the last couple days and last week and stuff. So and it's popping up everywhere as people are gearing for it. And I don't think it's because these companies particularly care about people in general. I think it's I don't know, they just care about their social credit score and their woke overlords giving them good ratings. And it's kind of scary that a lot of these companies don't even care about the power of the almighty dollar anymore from like the customer and what the customer wants. It used to be the customer is always right, and now it's not really that case. And what do you do when everyone kind of works toward an agenda rather than supply and demand? I think we're in really weird territory right now. But that's the meme. That's the meme. So I'll get back to the Aragorn story. I want to start off with the Trump DeSantis thing. You guys know that I'm not too terribly fond of their back and forth right now. Mostly the Trump hits, but DeSantis is really punching, I guess. He was in like a press conference the other day, and people were saying that it was one like kind of jab after another. So, and it's kind of funny because people were saying that before DeSantis got in, there was all these allegations that he'd be too scared to go head to head, and he, has a class jaw, etc. But so he's showing he's not really afraid to address things. Now, I don't know how good of a strategy that is entirely right now because Trump has such a devoted following. Well, there's two things. There's people and organizations who are still making a lot of money off of Trump. And they're not willing to just kind of let go of Trump right now. At the moment, probably not. Maybe eventually they'll peel that off and kind of open the door to other folks. But there's a lot of folks who are understand the power of Trump and the power of his base and the power of marketing, the power of merch and the power of fundraising. And they're not going to be jumping to Team DeSantis anytime soon. Anytime soon. And if DeSantis wants to really make his case, especially to people who are, because right now he's polling, and I did like an official sort of poll off of my YouTube, and I totally was not surprised by the results. Trump got like 55% of the vote. I think DeSantis got like 29%. So I think that's it's not a terribly scientific poll, but I have 70,000 followers, and I think there was like 4,000 people who voted at least, and I wasn't surprised that Trump got a majority of the vote because he still is polling, at the majority of the vote, and DeSantis is like, 30-ish or whatever. So, it seemed pretty accurate. Now, the other two people who were listed on the poll, because I think I could only make 4 options at the time, was Tim Scott and Vivek. And they had like 7, 11, I don't know. I don't remember exactly what they were, but DeSantis was 2, Trump was 1. Once you get other people out of the race, and it's if it was a 2-man race, obviously DeSantis would be polling higher, but I still think Trump would have a higher percentage. So he has to, and by the way, Chris Christie is apparently about to announce and get in the race again, which I don't understand. He has, he doesn't have a good favorability rating, even with like Republicans and stuff. So, is that just to raise money? Is that just for ego? Because at the end of the day, he's not going to be sitting in the White House. Is he getting in to make a deal and kind of punch DeSantis from the campaign trail to back Trump? Because he said some things, because he was really, when Trump was the nominee and when Trump was the president, he had nice things to say, but, he faded away. So I don't know if there's some kind of strategy there or what, but that's, as far as the advancement of the actual Republican Party and the actual road to the White House, it's a big freaking waste of time. And I don't appreciate it, but people run for all kinds of different reasons. I would think that a man that smart, and he's smart to at least gotten where he is and achieved the sort of things that he's achieved, he at least probably knows that he's not going anywhere. So, people have all kinds of reasons why they run. But I don't appreciate everyone's reasons, I suppose. But if the longer there are more people in the race, the harder it's going to be for DeSantis, because Trump does have such a big, loyal chunk of the base. And if DeSantis wants to chip some of those folks away, because in 2016, 2015, Republicans were really, there was like 16 people running, and people were running and trying to grab whatever scrap of parties they could. And Trump won with the plurality. Now Trump appears to have the majority, So he's on the track right now to definitively win that primary unless there's a shift. Now it's very early and there can be shifts, but if DeSantis is gonna peel some of those folks away, he needs to not come maybe so aggressively, because if he came to Michigan and came in like some Trump friendly territory, and which I'm not saying that people would only support Trump in Michigan, but Michigan is like the people in Michigan, the Republicans in Michigan are super for Trump. And there's people who are open to other options, but I'm telling it real as being an insider, it really, really feels, I sweat in my nose, I'm sorry guys. It really, really feels like it's still Trump country. So if DeSantis comes and he's talking to a crowd and he just starts going boom, 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 boom on Trump hitting hard, I think he would probably be booed. And people wouldn't receive him well. So is it wise for him to go so direct? I don't know. Do I think that Trump's particular attacks on him are good? No. No, especially not this COVID narrative, because he keeps saying several times now that DeSantis isn't really that good as a governor. He just is lucky because he's in Florida and he's the one who made him and put him in Florida. So one, it's like, okay, so you're responsible for a mediocre governor, like or one that's not that good, or one that you said did bad, and you're the one who made him, and now you're like trashing. Like, you keep elevating people and then having to tear them down when they don't do exactly the things that you want them to do. So that's not great there. But there's been this whole narrative, like with the pandemic, at least Republicans, like freedom is the right thing to do. Freedom is the right choice. Letting people go to beaches and gyms and restaurants, letting them, keep their businesses, etc. And Florida was closed down for a little while and they took precautions or whatever, but Florida was the free state that people fled to. And, DeSantis even mentioned that, like, his family moved down to Florida, like where I am, my state, etc. So, but the narrative was that Cuomo was bad and freedom, like in Florida, was good. Now Trump is saying even Cuomo was better than DeSantis. So that's the narrative. Now, New York was crazy. They were crazy, and after Cuomo left, they continued to be crazy. Which Cuomo, if you're not up to date, he ended up getting ousted because of sexual assault allegations and stuff, which, they seem pretty legit. So he resigned and was pushed out in disgrace. My theory, which I've said this a couple times, I think he was the evidence and the stories behind the nursing home stuff was very telling, because they intermixed nursing home patients with COVID positive patients, and it led to deaths. It led to deaths, which they tried to ignore for a long time. And I think about a year, people were like, oh, this story that's been out there, let's talk about it a bit. And so there were other governors who did the same thing. There were 4 other Democrat governors who did the same thing. One of them was my governor. And I think there was too much heat coming in on Cuomo at the time. And so they were probably like, let's get rid of him. Now, I'm not saying that people didn't dislike him already and that those allegations weren't true, because I think the allegations, they sound pretty legit. So, but I don't really think that's was the driving reason to why he pushed himself, why he was pushed out by everyone. I think that's my theory. I don't know how I could prove it. It's just kind of what I believe. You can agree, not agree, whatever, but he's gone. And not totally like ruling out probably coming back into politics, by the way. I don't think he's done. He doesn't seem like he's done. But Trump saying this narrative about Cuomo, you did better in New York, where they had crazy mandates and they had the passports, and Cuomo he was telling people, if you want to not kill people, get an essential job. He was saying the crazy stuff, just the crazy stuff, but the media was uplifting him. And the reason why they're uplifting him, by the way, so this is the thing that doesn't make the most sense to me. They weren't uplifting Cuomo to be the governor above DeSantis, because DeSantis was like, I mean, he had, he was in the news when he ran in his primary, and it was very slim that he won by with Andrew Gillum, and Florida's so lucky you guys dodged a bullet. But he really rose to prominence because people were calling him Death Santis, and there were, Grim Reapers walking the beaches, and they just really wanted Florida to be this awful death state. But they weren't really uplifting Cuomo and airing his press conferences about COVID stuff and giving him an Emmy for all that stuff because of DeSantis, for that kind of contrast. Cuomo, they uplifted Cuomo to be like the alternative to Trump. That's what that was. They wanted to uplift him as this governor of this big state that was doing these things. So like, here's a competent leader, unlike the guy who told us to drink bleach. That's why they were uplifting Cuomo. And by the way, Trump didn't tell people to drink bleach, in case you didn't know. But they're uplifting Cuomo as a contrast to Trump. Not a contrast to DeSantis. A contrast to Trump. So Trump taking Cuomo's side, or, at least just to say that he's better than DeSantis, is beyond. It's beyond. So I'm going to share this screen so you guys can see what he was tweeting. So DeSantis said, Trump tells the truth finally. New York got hit first and worst, but New Yorkers acted responsibly. Florida's policy of denial allowed COVID to spread, and that's why they had a very large second wave. So his argument here, Cuomo is saying that they acted responsibly, how harsh they were on religious communities, particularly Jewish communities, but churches and everything in general. They the way that they did the passports, how they treated their workers, made it mandatory that they had to get, vaccinated, or they had to lose their jobs. All the stuff that they did, chaining up playgrounds and all that stuff. That was the responsible thing to do. That was the path to do. And DeSantis letting like freedom happen, the businesses stay open, people go to the beach. That's the bad thing that they did. So the question is, was it freedom the right approach, or was government authoritative rule the right approach? Because if you're saying that Cuomo did better and Cuomo was way one and led to a better outcome than what DeSantis was doing, then were these lockdowns a mistake? Were there lockdowns, weren't a mistake? How children suffered and are behind in their education, and we don't know how bad it is, but there should be, man, I've heard stories from schools and teachers talking about how the kids didn't show up and kids were failing, but the principals still want them to pass, and still was like, we'll give everybody D's. So you don't know how bad it is about to be with people, graduating or going up in grades, because they really are behind, and some people won't allow us to know how bad things are, but we know they're pretty bad. The deterioration of people not being able to see their loved ones, like even in nursing homes and other places, and how people just kind of lost themselves to loneliness and alcohol abuse and drug abuse of other things, and how people suffered with their, not just mental health, but physical health, with things that they couldn't take care of because they were only doing essential things. I had a friend who had a mass inside of him, and he couldn't go to the hospital to see about it for the longest time because it wasn't deemed essential. Can you imagine that? You may have cancer inside of you. And they're like, that's not essential. That's the crazy world that we were living in. And Cuomo did things the right way, or at least better than DeSantis. So let me zoom this in a little bit. So this account, if you don't follow this account on Twitter, they go through a lot of like media falsehoods and stuff. So that's why I started following them. But Andrew Cuomo now celebrating Trump's ludicrous claim that he handled COVID better than DeSantis. So let me go back a little bit. Trump once said that he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and wouldn't lose voters. Him endorsing lockdowns again, and Cuomo's approach to COVID over DeSantis' approach is basically the political equivalent of testing that theory. Almost the entire right has been united for several years on the idea that the Cuomo approach to COVID was a disaster and DeSantis' approach was right. Now Trump wants to validate the Cuomo approach to score some primary points, and some people seem willing to just go along. How do you even pretend that Trump learned any lessons from handing over the entire administration to those that handing over his entire administration to those that didn't even consider cost of closing schools, restricting businesses, etc., when he's specifically praising the governor who did those things over the one who opposed them? It's a good question. It's a good question, guys. And they went on to talk about the narrative. I feel like I have to explain the substance here. Asserting that Florida, the third largest state, did worse than New York, the fourth largest state, because they were third in total deaths and New York is fourth, is obviously ignorant and dishonest. Florida did significantly better than New York in excess deaths per capita, especially when the age adjusted, see below. But there is a larger and more important point here. Florida did better in deaths per capita while also making an effort to keep businesses open, schools open, and allowing people to enjoy their lives, while New York was sending state thugs to put locks on playgrounds and search Jewish schools. Kids in Florida were seeing their friends. That's why a good portion of New York City spent so much time in Florida during COVID, which is true. There were major costs outside of deaths that were simply never considered by Fauci, Andrew Cuomo, or Donald Trump when they were formulating or maintaining the COVID response, and his current attack makes it clear that Donald Trump still does not care about those costs. I wouldn't say that he doesn't care, but this isn't a good it's not a good narrative, guys. You can love him all you want, and I just want him to do better. This isn't a good narrative. I know people. I'm got to make a post or something, because I've never met Trump. I never had the honor. Though I did sing at several rallies, and it's just kind of like, been to the White House a couple times, went to the inauguration, got to see him dance with his wife. Just always kind of been out of reach, but I don't know if he'd take this advice from me, but I know people who know him, who have his ear, who have at least, talked to him on the phone, who have his number and stuff. And just like, somebody's got to just be like, this isn't a great attack. Like, focus on your strengths. Focus on your strengths, because there's a lot of holes you could poke with Trump and his response. And I don't terribly hold it against him angrily or something, because hindsight is 2020, but I just think it's so weird to attack DeSantis on this. Almost the entire right has been united for several years on the idea that Cuomo's approach to COVID was a disaster. DeSantis' approach was right. Now Trump wants to validate Cuomo's approach to score some political points, and some people seem to go along with it. I already read that. So, I'm concerned. And I didn't but you know what? That doesn't mean that Trump's not going to pull it out in the primary again. He's super ahead right now. I didn't love a lot of the things that he did in 2016, not all of his attacks, and from when he attacked other Republican candidates, and his policy was kind of like he was finding his way with some things. Like he'd see how people responded, and then he would like shape it up a bit and stuff. So, but this is, his third go around, So I just want something tighter, guys. I just want something tighter. I'm sorry if you feel differently, but I think we all know that he can do better. I think he has such huge advantages when it comes to like foreign policy and stuff. And there's been some people who are on the fence between supporting the two, or some people even support DeSantis, who think that he doesn't have strong enough answers for like Ukraine and other like foreign policy stuff. So I think that Trump, how America's declining on the world stage, can just, say all the things that he did, all the things that Biden did, and just his whole campaign should be, I was right the whole time, and go from there. And we need, to not just rebuild America domestically. We need to show strength, and people around the world think that we're a joke right now. Man, that is so true though. And it's unfortunate about people looking and thinking that we're kind of a joke. I posted this story about the Lululemon thing, and they're like, man, what's wrong with America right now? I don't know. I don't know. I do not know. I do not know. So Cuomo, not backing Trump, but like using what Trump's saying to make himself look good or whatever. It's like he's finally telling the truth now. I hate that. I just hate that, and I hate that Trump opened the door for it. Which, on a side note, there was like a rumor going around that Hillary Clinton endorsed Ron DeSantis. That was not true, guys. Not true. She's supporting Joe Biden, and I imagine that Cuomo is supporting Joe Biden. But you know what? Also, just because someone is supporting someone, like, for example, people are like, oh, I don't know how tight the Bushes and DeSantis or whatever it actually is or whatever, but if they don't like Trump and Trump doesn't like them, the feeling is mutual, right? If they're not going to support Trump, who are they going to support for president that has a decent shot out of everybody beating Trump? Like, just like a logical sort of thing. That doesn't mean that he's in the pocket or something just because they're backing him. But I've seen so many people say things like, oh, the Bushes are supporting him, so I can't support him. Who else would they support, guys? Who else would they support? if they're going to vote for a Republican at all, who are they going to support in the primary? Who has a decent chance at, beating Trump? I don't think anyone else has a good shot. And DeSantis' shot looks kind of slim right now, but it's early. So what other option do they have? So anyway, let's move on. So Lululemon, in Atlanta, the company fired 2 of their employees for calling the police and giving information that led to the arrest of these criminals. Now, the store's been hit a few times, and they called the police, and apparently the store has a zero tolerance policy on this. So I'm going to play a video of them chasing these guys out the store, telling them to leave, and then they go and they get their license plates.
You can march back out. No, you can march. No. Seriously. Get out. Get out. Get out. Video their car. They're about to zoom off. I know, but I don't want.
So they got their license plate, and it led to the criminals being arrested. And again, the company has a zero tolerance policy for theft. I mean, for calling the police. And I don't know. it could just be they don't want their employees engaging, and possibly getting hurt and having to deal with that. Or maybe they just don't want to deal with the hassle of actually charging them, and they'll just report the theft and insurance, etc., blah, blah, blah. But that is crazy to me. And I heard someone make the point that so many people think that just because you have a corporation or whatever, then that means that they're conservative or on the right or Republican or whatever. And that's not true. A lot of these companies are woke. They're run by woke people. They go along to get along. And of course they like the power of the almighty dollar and, capitalism when it suits them. But a lot of these companies don't even like just pure kind of capitalism. They like corporatism. They like favors, and they like, government handouts, and they do shady things, and they lobby to get the government to do kind of different things that will hurt their smaller competitors. And then these bigger companies can just grow and grow and grow because they're the only game in town. So just because you have a company doesn't mean that they're going to make smart decisions or that they're anywhere on the right, and a lot of these companies give to both the right and the left because they're like, well, we're going to still be here whether your guy wins or my guy wins or whatever. But at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that we get a piece of our pie. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump gave a lot of money to people on the right and the left, Democrat and Republican, because he did business in New York and other places. And he wanted to make sure that he could do well in his businesses. So people in business play games for sure. But this is crazy, guys. Really, really crazy. That law-abiding citizens could be fired over this. Now, that's the store's policy. I guess it is what it is. But as I said, this is one thing that I posted, and people are like, man, people are laughing at you guys over in America about your crazy policies and what you guys are doing right now. And I guess I don't doubt that. It's such a crazy thing that we are doing here. These two ladies calling the police, and you know what, I don't like thieves, so I don't think I could just be like, let that go if I could have a chance to stop them or something. And I know that's against their like policy or whatever, and why they're fired. And I don't know what other kind of legal repercussions they might try to have to get their jobs back or whatnot, or settlement, or I don't know. But I just wouldn't be able to take it within my soul. I just wouldn't be able to take it. I remember when someone broke into my car and stole my computer, and they stole it was in Detroit, and I had left the office from Lansing, and I had an event with the 14th Congressional District, which no longer exists now. And it was a Christmas party, and it was in like a little Mexican town or something. And I was late, and I was supposed to sing. And so I just kind of left my things in the car, and I had a place out in Lansing. But I still had a place that I share with my sister on the east side of the state. So I had a duffel bag full of clothes. I had my laptop bag, and it had my work laptop in it, and had my personal laptop in it. And I normally always have my computer on me. Always. Even like go to a restaurant or something, I have it with me. I don't leave things in the car. We're taught not to leave things in the car in Detroit. We are taught that. And if you have to leave something in the car in Detroit, then you put things out of sight. Like, I don't know how many people are taught that in the urban cities or whatever, but we're definitely taught that. So I was in such a hurry. I went inside and had a good night. It was fun. Food was good. Sang well, had good, fellowship with the folks around me. And when I go outside, at first I think I'm like, my windows are rolled down. And then I'm like, I go to the car and I'm like, why is there glass in the car? And then it just dawned on me, that I was robbed, and it just crushed my soul to have my things stolen. Especially like I had so much work on my computer. Like I have files for um like stuff for my books and whatever that are gone, like design stuff. A lot of like the stuff that I wrote is like on the cloud, so that stuff wasn't lost so much, but like there's files of designs and stuff that I'll just never have again. So and I suppose you got to say like you're supposed, that's why you back up everything. You don't know when's the day when you're really going to have needed those things to be backed up. But the point is, people shouldn't be breaking cars and stealing stuff. And I called the police, and basically calling the police all it amounted to was having the report that you could give to the insurance. So you could, get your claim on your money or whatever. So I was upset. I was so upset, and I felt violated that people would do that. And if I could have had a tank and just like roamed the streets until I found my things, I don't know, I might have done that, just how my initial kind of reaction was. But I hate thieves, man. I hate thieves. You know, it's such an awful, terrible thing to do, but people feel so strongly like they can get away with it. And what I don't appreciate about Lululemon firing their employees, because what you should just allow these criminals to keep doing this. They led to the arrest of these people because they got the license plate number. They're good. They did a good thing, and they've lost their jobs. So you're just teaching other people, especially within your company, but that to be good does not pay. To do the right thing does not pay. And that we're just going to keep fostering an environment where crime just continues. And that's crazy to me. And even for their safety, if people are criminals and they know that they can keep continuing to come back, because this store was hit a few times, and there'll be no repercussions or whatever. What happens if there's some kind of altercation and one of them gets hurt? And I know that's probably one of the reasons why they don't want them to engage and just kind of get out of the way while they steal all the stuff. But bad people who are doing crimes are coming in continuously. Are you not increasing your chances of some kind of danger? So people need to know that there's some kind of repercussions when you go in and you do bad things and you commit crimes, and you should be going to jail. Like when Tim Scott did his video where he's like, I'm running for president, and The View didn't like him and were making fun of him, and Sonny said racist stuff and blah blah blah, any shocker, and they're like, who is this message for? Because he said, like, we need personal responsibility. You commit a crime, you go to jail. And he said other things, but like, who is this for? Like, as if people aren't being held accountable. No, people aren't being held accountable for doing bad things. They are not. So I will say this. I said this at the top of the hour. There's people overseas who don't understand why so many Americans are like, why do you need guns? Like, why wouldn't we need firearms? We can depend on no one but ourselves for our self-preservation. And we are at the point where there's just no repercussions for evil. Not that's an exaggeration, I suppose, but to say no, like it's absolute, none, like it's absolute or something, but it's bad. It's bad in a lot of places. And this kind of story is very discouraging. But kudos to the women for catching the criminals, or helping the police to catch those criminals. They did the right thing. They absolutely did the right thing reporting. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and move on. So I already kind of touched on this earlier, but we got a Black Aragorn now, guys. Now this is for Wizards of the Coast. So I'm not saying that they're going to make a Lord of the Rings movie at all with a Black Aragorn from, as I said, Lord of the Rings, which by the way, when I posted this on YouTube, someone was like, oh, where do I begin? They started off with all the wrong things about the actual design with the sword and other stuff like that before they even bothered to mention his race. So, I thought this was such an excellent example of the fandom. Lord of the Rings fans, like so many people will talk about how fandoms are toxic, and there's definitely people who can be toxic within any sort of fandom, period. But just because you're very passionate about what you love, you know what, people act like the fans have no right to complain about, and it's so petty or whatever for them to complain about things. And I guess I understand people like, you're a grown person, like why do you care that much? Why are you invested that much in it? But people bank on these people being invested in their products. That's why they have a business. That's why they have these titles and these properties that have done so well, because people love the stuff, because they've invested in these things, because they go to the conventions and they went to the movies and they bought the hobbit feet and the elf ears and the swords and, you know, did the cosplay. If without their investments within the property, you wouldn't have the big global success that this stuff is. So people rejecting the fans or coming at the fans and attacking the fans for being fans is really lame. And it seems like that's really what the access media really loves to do. Henry Cavill, for example, he had an interview one time, and I don't remember if it was about The Witcher or another project he was working on, but they tried to bait him into trashing the fans, and he wouldn't do it. And he basically said what I said, like, it's reasonable for people to be passionate about these things. And I think people, I don't know, I think he's kind of too good for this world, like me, the Hollywood world, and that's why he keeps getting the shaft on different projects. You know, like he's too, he appreciates the source material and the fans too much because he is a fan, and that's why he keeps getting like ousted from certain projects or whatever. I don't know what the deal with Superman, other than the fact that they did want to go with a younger guy and tell a different kind of story, which I wanted to see a happy Man of Steel kind of film, a Man of Steel 2, and just whatever. But when he did a video talking about doing the film, he's like, we're bringing back the optimism. I'm like, yes, he understands. But they don't want people who understand and love and appreciate the source material. They want to just wear its skin and dye the skin a different shade and make money. They don't care about the souls of these characters and what the intent of these authors and all this stuff. All they want is to inject their virtue signaling nonsense into this stuff. So people trashing, like I've seen people trashing Lord of the Rings fans being upset about this and calling them Nazis. Are you crazy? Are you on drugs? Like, again, there wouldn't be these properties, they wouldn't be the massive successes that they are if people weren't passionate enough to learn the weird languages that they came up with. There are people so devoted to this stuff, and then you're like, get over it when you change like someone's entire skin tone. Are you crazy? It doesn't make any sense. It's serious gaslighting. They depend on these people being just rabid supporters of this stuff. And at the end of the day, they still expect people to go out and support it. But the fans did not love Rings of Power. I didn't watch it, so I don't know how it was or wasn't. I do watch different channels that did watch the show. And sometimes I would, watch a review or two, and they did not like it. And I think there was a report that came out that a lot of people who watched it didn't even like finish it. So, but they're still doing a second season though. And Lord of the Rings fans don't play. Lord of the Rings fans do not play. They are very serious about their craft, their beloved series. And these folks, even though this isn't like canon or whatever, and they're not necessarily making this a film or something, Magic the Gathering making this stuff, it's not cool, and it's not respectful to the people who love this the lore. It's not. And then also people use stuff like this to be like, well, he's been black before. So if they make him black later, then there's some kind of precedence here. That's what they do. But in the long run, I don't know if they have the guts to risk that much money. But then again, we just talked about how they don't ultimately care about money that much. They have other sort of agendas going on. So I started writing an article, and I think I'll have it out today, just talking about how at the end of the day, these people claim that they're so into inclusion and diversity, and that's what's important to them, and that's what's important for the world and moving forward, etc., representation, blah, blah, blah. And it's just not true. When they say inclusion, what they mean is less white people. That's what they mean. They don't mean more black people. They don't mean more Hispanic people. They mean less white people. And it is so weird. And it's not race. It's not, they think they're less racist, when the truth is that they're more racist. They just put the racism in a fancy suit and invited them to a ball. That's what they did. But it's still racism. And I've talked about this before when they came out with Black Panther, and I did not like the Namor representation. I did not like the actor for it. I didn't like the look. I didn't like the design. I didn't like the changes in the backstory. I wasn't a fan. And for Kakuku Khan, or whatever his name was, I liked Namor, and his name is actually Namor McKenzie. And I had a Namor poster on my wall for the longest time that was, drawn by Michael Turner, who did beautiful art, who passed away a long time ago now, I guess. But I know who the character is, so me not being cool with the change, and then I mentioned it, and people are saying, as a black woman, why are you upset about it? And I'm like, what does me being black have to do with this man who is not black playing this character who is not Hispanic? What does it... I'm not that kind of brown. So it's like, we're just supposed to jump in together and be like, we're so glad this man ain't white. Like, that's not how I think things should be. I don't think that's progress. And, as I already mentioned, in other times, like with the Little Mermaid stuff, if I'm like, her hair should be a different shade of red, at the very least. And by the way, reportedly, they spent, according to Variety, $150,000 on her hair. And I'm like, they spent that much money on the thing that is the most iconic about her, and to get it wrong? And the person who was reporting it, from Allure, was like, they were never going to do the red color from the cartoon because she's a real person. And I'm like, her tail is CGI. Like, people were saying, oh, it's a mermaid. She can be whatever color we want. And but she can't have red hair. She does technically have red hair, but it's very orange and, to be real. But again, she's a mermaid. It's fantastical. But they also said they wanted something that complemented her skin. And I'm just like, so can we go back to maybe she shouldn't have been cast? If you guys don't think she would have been the right pick to look like Ariel. But just mentioning and bringing up those things, you get labeled anti-black. And a friend of mine did a review of Little Mermaid, and last I looked, it was over 1 million views. I wonder if it got to 2 million. And her reviews, on TikTok, usually don't get that much traction. But people were so mad that she didn't like it, and were calling her anti-black, you're a black person, but you're a white person actually talking or something. Which is interesting, because I didn't think these people believed in transracialism, but apparently they do. especially when it comes to the Little Mermaid. And if you don't agree with the agenda, you know, and she just, you know, I listened to her podcast about it, and she's just laughing like these people are so pressed. So, I, I mention these things, I talk about these things because I think they're fascinating commentary, but I think they speak something deeper to something very wrong with our world and how, people think we're making progress and we're not. Like a lot of this is just rooted in animosity toward white people. It seems like, and then you have all these black content creators who want something new, who want something fresh, who volunteer as tribute and say, hey, I have some interesting characters and things that I can put out that you might like. And they're like, no, we gotta keep just pumping out the same kind of garbage over and over and over again. There was one cartoon, person who did a lot of cartoons who were, really renowned, and I was going through the thread, and they talked about how many things they pitched to like Netflix and stuff that they just will not pick up. And people are like, you can't get them to pick up any of your cartoon. And this is someone who did like multiple cartoons that were successful that, people have watched over and over and over again, but that people don't want to pick up new things. They just want to take titles. Well, one thing with titles that existed, they have to keep redoing stuff and making stuff so they don't lose like the rights or whatever. So that is a part of it. But a lot of stuff is just they want the cash grab. They think it's easy. There's a baked in fan base so they can just keep pumping up stuff. And they don't want to take the chance with a new character and building a new black character that everyone may love because there's a chance that you might not like them. So they're just going to take a character that's traditionally white, who's already built up an audience, and just put them in blackface and be like, here, enjoy this person. And if you complain, if you don't like it, then you're a racist. And if the show's trash, it's not because we're bad writers, it's because you're a racist. And so it's just kind of it's a formula now. And I don't know if we're going to get away from that. And I think that's sad. I think the only thing we can basically do is try to continue building a parallel economy and creative independent people push their stuff, and kind of try to slay the big corporate beast by being competitive. And good luck to all the people who create content and can contribute. I mentioned Eric July earlier. He's all got like 3 different books coming out now with his ISOM universe. So Godspeed to him. He made a lot of money first go around, and he's prepping for ISOM 2. He made over $3 million with his comic book launch. And so he's about to do ISOM 2. He got Chuck Dixon. If you're familiar with comic books, Chuck Dixon is a legend. So he's going to be writing one of his books. And then he got some other, well-known content creators to create his book for Yaira, his female character. So he's killing it. He's doing a good thing. And there's other people out there trying to grind. Guys, I'm out there trying to grind with my stuff. Just support other people, support other content creators and help them try to achieve their dreams. If you're really, really sick of this corporate stuff, because they're just going to keep making the soulless garbage, and because they expect you to take it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blackteens.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. I do want to give a shout out to my super chat. That's a good question. Love your vids. Do you sell audio editions of your books? Pluribus. I do not have any audiobooks yet. That's supposed to be my next new great adventure. Perhaps I will get them. I know some sisters are watching. Perhaps a microphone should be what I should ask for my birthday next month, and getting with that. So there's a couple in mind that I would, like to do. Actually did start recording the Super Kid one, but I started that and I didn't finish it quite. So I'm going to just probably have to redo that. And, I definitely want to do the audiobook for my book, of course, Guy That Blatantly Gets Abortion. That's available for, paperback. It's available on ebook. You guys get it on Barnes and Noble. You guys can get it on Amazon. So please go ahead and check that out and purchase that book. But all my fiction stuff, yeah, I would love for all that stuff to go on audiobook and stuff. So I'm just not there yet. And I know that takes some time, but yeah, that's a next big adventure. And part of me wonders like how much money I'm like kind of leaving on the table, because people do ask that quite often. So if people really buy that, I'm sure I'll pump them out relatively quickly. But not at the moment. But thank you so much for your interest and for watching. I know you watch quite often, so thank you very much. Oh, I don't know if I want to use AI to do the audiobooks. I know that some people are doing that. I'm kind of at a crossroads with the AI stuff. At least like especially creatively, I don't want to do anything like image wise. And I see like so many cool stuff that people put out with the AI, and some people just use it and they don't do the touch ups because you can see it with the hands and other stuff. But I've seen so many artists complain about it because they're like, technically they're stealing other people's sort of techniques and what they're doing to generate these different images, and I get that, and so I don't know, I kind of feel like maybe not the voice thing so much, but the because you're talking about do AI with my voice or something. I think that's kind of weird. I think I would just record it myself when I actually did it. But as far as like art, because sometimes I think like, oh, wouldn't it be neat to do just AI generated stuff for some of my characters so people could like see them as I imagine them maybe a bit. But I don't think I want to do that. I think I would like to just if I had the extra cash or whatever. There's some artists that I follow that I really like, and would like to support them in their adventures as I want people to support me in mine. So I know AI is gonna just really explode, especially like in the political sphere. With the election, Trump already like posted that AI DeSantis call on with Satan and George Soros. If you guys saw that, which I played it when it happened. I think the day after he posted it, after the day after Ron announced or whatever, or maybe it was the following week or whatever. So it's going to be wild election season with the AI, but I don't know. I feel really iffy about it. So if I do audiobooks, I'm definitely going to either I'll do probably quite a bit of them myself that I feel that I can. And if I have characters that have like, I don't know, deep accents or something, I'm probably not going to bother. And I'd like to maybe pay a voice artist or something to do that. So something I'll continue to look at. Um, anyway, I'm just looking at the comments. So, you guys are really talking today. But again, if you guys want to support, you can go to blacktnews.com, check out my website, and you can give it the website again. Thank you for the super chats, and check out different merch. I'm gonna plan to post some new stuff tomorrow, so you can check out the merch store. So keep up to date with that. And that's all for today. So I'll let you go, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.